So you want to be a rock and roll star, so listen now to what I say. Just get an electric guitar and take some time and learn how to play. And when your hair's just right and your pants are tight, it's going to be all right. I forget what the next verse is.
Lee, I thanks for the opportunity for me to sit down and talk with you. I've gotten to know you a bit over the last 10 years or so, I think, and I've been a fan of yours. I was one of those punker kids.
Oh man,
in the late 70s.
Mutual. I know exactly how you feel. It's a joy to be here in Studio 606,
right,
where I feel more at home than any studio I've ever been in my life. This seems like, the family studio.
Yeah.
Where every family should have a studio. Well, this is definitely one of those.
Right.
And Dave has always done everything he could for us, takes good care of us, and all of that. So it's a nice, warm feeling to be here.
Yeah.
And I look forward to this. Is a great opportunity getting to talk to you and trade ideas.
We can probably BS with the best of them.
I believe it. Yes.
So by the time this comes out, people will know that Range War is going to be playing some gigs.
Yes.
Right.
In November.
In November with me and my band.
Yes.
That I just put together for this thing.
I
couldn't be happier.
I couldn't either. It's a great opportunity, and I love country music. It's my heart and soul. This Italian kid from Philadelphia just loves country music. Can't help himself. That's just the fact of it.
Did you grow up with Hank? What was the story?
Well, I would find a place to hear country music.
Okay.
It wasn't always easy.
Right.
With WIBG and playing the top 40.
Right.
And American Bandstand, going from Grady and Hurst to Dick Clark.
Yeah.
All of those years. It wasn't the most natural thing, but if you could put a little time into looking for a country station, you might find one.
Right.
And then there was Jubilee USA on television. So you would see country music on the network broadcasts from time to time.
I can probably speak for all the punk rock kids, but at least in my group in Seattle, the punk rock, when we saw you in Decline, that was our first foray into Fear. And it was he's got something more than just
Man, I've been singing since I'm 3 years old.
Right.
And I just love to get to the microphone and sing. I'm not afraid of it. I know that I'm going to think of something to do in time.
Yeah.
And it's just a gift from God. It's just a joy to sing.
Yeah.
And I just love it. Harmonies and all of that.
Yeah. I love harmonies.
And all the hits that there have been from every type of human being in the world, all races, colors, and creeds.
Yeah.
And it's all just a joy to me. There's 12 notes, and you do what you can with them.
That's it.
And we go from there.
Is there 12?
Yes, and there's no boundaries beyond that.
Right.
None that I can think of that are worth a shit.
Yeah.
And anybody that writes something that's catchy is fair game. Right. I'll be wanting to sing it.
Right, cool. And you got to work with Shooter. I know you just recorded here.
What a joy, man. What a joy. I was just beside myself.
Sounded like you had a pretty hot shit band for what you were doing.
Oh, we sure did. We sure did. That was an all-star review.
I went back and I listened to Range War. I remember Range War. I remember you doing this, and I remember thinking, it's the best name ever for a band, number one. It's
it's right out of history.
Yeah, no, I love to. I read a lot of history, so go ahead.
And so I found this picture. There's 4 or 5 of the countryest human beings that ever tread a boot on the dusty sand of Texas in this picture, and they're got guns drawn, and they're on horseback, riding their way into the saloon. I'm thinking, there's my cover.
Right. Yeah. When Guns N' Roses started playing shows in LA, it was 1985. We were getting opening slots, if we were lucky. nobody really knew what to do with us, so we would open for.
They soon had an idea.
In a while they did, right?
Yes.
But we were opening for a lot of like the kind of, remember the cowpunk scene?
Sure.
So Tex and the Horseheads.
Sure.
We would open those gigs at the Music Machine.
But I wasn't hearing the steel guitar that makes you cry.
No.
And I wasn't hearing the harmony out of a sweet, soulful young lady crying about her broken heart in
Right.
perfect pitch, and those kind of things. When the era that you were just speaking about fomented.
I think it was more kind of like everybody wanted to be Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers, and that's what was the band, and then they would have like Tex or somebody singing, and
Right.
They try to countryfy it a bit, you know. But then Range War hit, and like, oh, this is real country, you know. This is like Lee went for the real thing.
And I had Ray Austin playing steel guitar, and a keyboard player from New York, like myself, you know, from the place where you would least expect to find a country player, but wrote this song that will come to me in a minute, and it was as country gets.
Yeah.
And I gravitated toward that always.
Right.
You know, in the drummer and the keyboard player and the guitar players, basically the whole 9 yards, and particularly in the people that would be singing harmony with you, if they could also do that, that was a double gold star. And
Right.
that was the way to go.
Yeah. So, and you moved to Austin at some point in there,
Yes.
right? Late 80s?
Yes, we were right here in Northridge, and moved to Austin from Northridge, and I went right on finding country players. A friend of mine, Michael Ballou from Austin, Texas,
Okay.
is a great country singer, and I thought we would do something when we did little things together, and Austin was just a beautiful place to live.
Right.
A really beautiful place to live, a good place for my family to be in. And it was really, really nice.
I'm just going to say, so there's this gig I went to. It was the kind of punk rock fest. It was down in Orange County. It's about 4 years ago, 5 years. You were playing, Fear was playing, TSOL was playing, the kind of new Dead Kennedys thing was playing. A bunch of bands were playing. And I had met you at Iggy. I had met you once before.
Right.
Just for a second. And I was like so pleased that, like, because if you're growing up and you're me, like, Lee Ving's a scary dude. Like, I don't know, he might beat me up or something, you know. If I'm lucky, he's gonna say something gnarly at me, and I'll have a story, you know.
To be humorously offensive was part of the way I was viewing the subject selection chore as would be preparatory for a radio interview,
right,
or an LA Times interview, or something like that. And it usually worked out, and people usually got to see the humorous glint in my eye over it. I wasn't meaning to actually insult anybody, although that's what I was actually doing.
But it was coupled with, you know, it was coupled with, like, you're the real deal. When you hit the stage, that's like all bets are off. It's go time.
I'd been singing all my life,
yeah,
and I wanted to have a chance to show that, and it wasn't always forthcoming. And you wound up in top 40 bands quite often in order to pay your rent,
right,
and that sort of thing. But when the opportunity presented itself, I wanted to be able to take care of business in no uncertain terms and show folks something different.
Yeah.
And that has always been my MO.
So I go to this big Punkorama show in Orange County, Outside, Tattoo Fest. I don't know what it was called. But I went to go see you guys, right? And I go back there. I know the TSOL guy, so I get to go back. And there you were with your family. You had your room. And you were so nice and like soft spoken and hey, thanks for coming and it's great.
Sure.
Then you guys hit the stage.
I do appreciate the fact that folks will go through all the aggravation to go to a punk rock show and find a parking space and get in there in the crowd, and people spit and kicking on each other and shit, and you gotta sort of fade all of that to be there at the time you want to be.
Yes.
So it's something to be appreciated and to be thankful to folks for.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt about it.
But you hit the stage when you guys went on, and I've always liked the bands where I'm like, I got to back up a couple steps because something might happen. I've always loved that, whether it's you guys or when Henry first got into Black Flag, I was like, whoa, I backed up a couple steps. There's a couple bands now that do that for me, but you went on stage, this thing, I'm like, oh, I was on the side of the stage. I'm like, I can't watch this from the side. I'm going to go in the front. And I got around in front, and I'm like, oh, there's Lee. And it's so authentic and so real. And I really appreciate that about you.
Well, we were flattered that people would get out there and kick and punch and spit on each other. Although I'm not into spitting whatsoever, and I didn't want any part of that. But the fact that they would be willing to go through all that and be inspired to get that outrageous because of something that we had constructed or were doing was flattering and valuable. I thought it had great value. I thought it was cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I don't know. I could ask you a million questions about your life thus far. I mean, I just want to thank you for being authentic you for this whole period. It's been a real clarion, a clear focus for a guy like me to see a guy like you doing it the right way. You got into acting. You did all these cool things, but you just kept going. And that's so healthy for a guy. And I was drinking and I was doing drugs. And there's always Lee Ving. There's always you. Even in my head, I'm like, if all else fails, I can probably go to Lee Ving and he'd help me out. You have that thing about you.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
There's you and there's Iggy and a couple more, but so
to have compassion on the people that you're working with and you're surrounded by and who are members of the same style class of thing that you're attempting to do is really valuable. It's it makes you double think your motivation for things, and that's incredibly valuable. To have people to talk to about it and see what their slant is on something you're thinking about is incredibly valuable.
Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to these shows.
Me too, brother.
Yeah.
And
all right.
I thank you for this.
Thank you, Lee.
A chance to, expound upon the ideas that you're taken with is always a joy.
We might have to do a Nice Boys. Who knows? While you're out there.
Sure.
Who knows?
Yes, indeed.
Secret meeting.
Yes.
With Lee Ving.